Welcome back to Know Your Balls podcast, sports podcast where you got to know your balls. Avi Carr-Gloth with you as always. Robbie Williams, you know the deal. What's going on, Robbie?
Not much, man. I'm a little outraged, to be honest. We'll get into it here in a second with Tim Tebow.
Oh boy, there's a lot of high flying emotion potentially in this one. Before we get into it, again, I want to thank Tell ABQ. Make sure to download the Tell ABQ app. You can listen to all of our Tonique podcasts, including this one, Know Your Balls, on the Tell ABQ app. So shout out to good folks over there at Albuquerque, New Mexico. Got a lot to talk about the NFL, the 365-day machine that has turned into, has produced a lot more topics to discuss. The draft is behind us, obviously, but a certain Tim Tebow has signed on with an NFL franchise. We'll touch on that first. Schedule got released, and we've already seen some pretty high ticket prices. We'll touch on that. The Oakland A's, could another sports team be leaving Oakland, California? We'll talk about that. Also, we have some athletes making real bank. Speaking of athletes making bank, a certain offensive lineman in the NFL, Juan, who we talked about last week. Robbie had some things to say about that situation. I'm interested to see what he has to say about this as well. So there's been new developments in his story. Jaylen Brown, his injury for the Celtics is a big deal, and we'll touch on that. And as we look ahead to the NBA playoffs, which are finally here, finally excited to get some NBA playoff basketball back in our lives. And we'll also talk about who we think the MVP should be. I think it's pretty easy to determine that. But before we get to all of that, the subject that I'm going to set it, and then I'm going to just let Robbie go, because I know he has some things to say. I don't know what he's going to say.
I'm raring to go, dude.
I know. He's in the stable. He's in the stable ready to run out. So I'll just set the scene, and then I'll let Robbie take it from here. So Robbie, Tim Tebow, this was after the draft. Tim Tebow, former NFL quarterback, former Heisman winner, national champion at Florida, signing with the Jacksonville Jaguars to play tight end. He has not played in the NFL since 2012. He was playing minor league baseball in the New York Mets system. And there's been a lot of outrage, a lot of comparisons to the Colin Kaepernick situation. He is a former, one more thing, Robbie, before I let you go, is Urban Meyer, the new head coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He was the head coach in Florida when Tim Tebow was there. So that's another whole dynamic, and probably a big part of the reason why they signed him in the first place. So, Robbie, go for it. Tim Tebow and the Jaguars.
So this is going to go all the way back. My genuine hatred of Tim Tebow. I don't use that word lightly, but I genuinely
Ndamukong Suh
hate. Ndamukong Suh is an angel compared to Tim Tebow, as far as I'm concerned. Ndamukong Suh never ruined an NFL playoff game for me, and this is where I'm going to go to. All right, we got the 2012 AFC wild card. Okay, first play of overtime, Demaryius Thomas, 80 yards. The Steelers are out, and the second that game happened, I was like, the New England Patriots are going to kill the Denver Broncos because Tim Tebow actually sucks, and they're not that good, and they just got lucky. And if the Steelers had played that game, you would have saw a great game the next week. But I'll never forget that play, and I'll never let. I'm so tired of Tebow mania that entire year. And I was like, he's finally going to lose. I'm finally not going to have to hear about him. We can just enjoy the NFL playoffs. And then he just had to ruin one more game. And this was back in 2012. I still haven't forgiven him for it. But, at the same time, he has a knack. And that's why people like him, because he makes these plays like that. Like, I think his first at-bat in baseball was a home run. He just cranked one out of the park.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the type of dude he is. He's just got this... I don't know. He's got God on his side, I guess. Jesus is just up there rooting for him, just making crazy things happen. So that's my beef with Tim Tebow. He's just not that good, and then he makes these crazy plays that get him all this recognition. But in reality, it's like, do we talk about any other non-star in the NFL? Like, there are plenty of players who are really not going to make a huge impact on a team. that we don't talk about, but Tim Tebow's this guy who just won't go away no matter how insignificant he is on any team he plays on.
So, I mean, I guess I'm pretty neutral on him, but by your logic, I'm like a huge Tim Tebow fan because I despise the Steelers, and I was very happy to see them lose the way that they did. So I don't really have any complaints on that's a happy memory for me. Seeing Tim Tebow and the Broncos beat the Steelers in the playoffs, that's a happy memory for me. Also, at the height of Tebow mania, I loved Tebow mania. Like, I loved the random hype around this guy who was terrible for 3 quarters, and then he was like an NFL MVP in the 4th quarter. You know when you go to like parties or bar mitzvahs, like there's like photo booths and stuff like that. So my friends and I, whenever we went to a bar mitzvah party, and we went to a lot of them at the height of Tebow mania because we were like that age. All of our friends had bar mitzvahs and stuff like that. We Tebowed at the photo booth. I have like 7 or 8 pictures in my attic somewhere of like my friends and I Tebowing, and it would be like it never stopped. So I really liked Tebow mania.
I like that South Park episode where they made fun of Tebow mania. You got the guy. There's one scene where a guy goes out on yeah, exactly. Yeah, so they go out on the I can't remember why this guy does it, but he goes out on the train tracks and just Tebows, and a train runs him over. It's just like they just kill people in all these different ways because everybody's Tebowing all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, do you really think he'll have like an actual tangible impact on the field?
No, but he'll make one play that will make us talk about him, and that is why I don't like him.
Make one play. He'll make the game-winning touchdown.
Yeah,
reception.
He'll just do something that's worthy of just being like, "Wow, I can't believe he actually did it again." He's coming in as a tight end, though, right? He's not.
Yeah, no, but he is coming as a tight end. But I saw something on Twitter. You know the famous Tim Tebow like halftime speech or whatever, like it's the best day of our lives right here. Like there's like the viral locker room speech that Tim Tebow gave Florida, I think, in that championship game. And I saw some, it was like Trevor Lawrence, he's like a cool laid back guy. He's like, hey everyone, we just got and then Tim Tebow comes in, interrupts him with like a fiery speech. Like that's two Urban Meyer quarterbacks right there. And Urban Meyer is about getting guys that he's familiar with. The Iowa, I think, strength and conditioning coach who a lot of like black players had complaints about because he was like making like passively racial comments against them. He was like willing to hire him, even though there was like a whole mess with him leaving Iowa. There was drafting Travis Etienne in the 1st round to pair with Trevor Lawrence. He drafted a tight end, Luke Farrell, who went to Ohio State, who he personally recruited. Like, there's a history of this with Urban Meyer getting guys that he's comfortable with. And, I mean, Tim Tebow is one of his guys. So I can't say it really – it would have shocked me a lot more had it been a different team.
Yeah, I mean, for all my hatred of Tim Tebow, when I step back and take a more objective approach to this, I definitely can appreciate that the guy is an incredibly positive dude. I think that's how he manages to make these freak plays happen. Is like he just seriously, he's just got the right attitude. And I think if he does have any tangible effect on this team, it will be the team building aspect of it, just being a positive force in the locker room. And like you said, Urban Meyer bringing people in he trusts. And I think that's definitely a very real aspect of bringing him in that will have sort of a more behind the scenes effect on the team. Because if I'm not wrong, I think like Trevor Lawrence is also like a super religious guy. I think so. Not mistaken. Like they're both
he looks like it. He looks like it.
Yeah, I mean he's getting married, right? And he just got like I don't think if you get drafted in the NFL 1st round and you're like I'm really famous and I just have a ton of money, I'm gonna limit myself to one person for the rest of my life. Like you're definitely religious, I think.
So now we know what Robbie would do.
Wouldn't get married, no. Maybe I'd get a prenup. That's about it. But
Robbie Williams, great job depicting your NFL future. I love that. So Tim Tebow is on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Real quick though, like before we move on, because this was like a big part of the situation. Tim Tebow getting this opportunity to be in the NFL, and Colin Kaepernick still has not played in the NFL for a long time. A lot of the conversation has been about that. I think Des Bryant was one of the players that posted about it and talked a lot about it. Just it's like they're different circumstances, but I mean, it's one of those things where you have to like consider like, okay, like you can tell who's making the decisions here. Like you can tell the people who are in power and what they're comfortable doing.
Yeah, apparently, if you're a terrible player and you just happen to know a guy, you can get back into the NFL. But if you're a great player and you just have
take a knee,
something people don't like,
they both took knees.
You're out.
They've both taken knees. I'm saying that, I'm realizing
Tebow just didn't do it during the national
Tebow did it. He didn't do it during the anthem. He did it after he scored a touchdown. Interesting how that works. Yeah. So that's a whole other can of worms. But
you disrespected the touchdown. Nobody was out here like Tim Tebow hates touchdowns. He takes knees after touchdowns.
That would be like the NFL's version of like a bat flip, like somebody getting like excommunicated from baseball because they bat flip too hard. All right, Tim Tebow is back in the league somehow. The NFL schedule dropped. A lot of pieces of information we're getting from this, and honestly, for me, I'm not someone who really gets excited at the schedule release. I'll get excited in like 4 months from now, or like when the season's starting. That's when I'll get excited. I know people who like try to memorize their team schedules from day one. I'm not about that. But there's a number of teams that get a certain amount of primetime games, which is exciting. Me as a Browns fan, as somebody who is not used to seeing their team on primetime TV, having expectations of a national stage is big for me. Teams are allowed to have up to 5 primetime games. Obviously, the Dallas Cowboys are always going to be there. Green Bay, New Orleans, Seattle, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, the Rams, the Niners, the Chiefs, and the Buccaneers. That's 10 teams with 5 nationally televised games, which I think is a record. I've never heard of getting that many 5 games. But again, this is a longer season. This is where there are 18 weeks now in the NFL season, so there are more primetime games
too. So it counts. It's like an extra prime time thing. So sometimes they do 2 games on Monday night. I think it's just at the beginning of the season though.
Yeah, but they're not doing that this year.
Oh, they're not?
Okay. They're not doing that anymore. And they have, for the first time ever, they're going to have a Monday Night Football game in week 17, because that's not the last week of the season. Steelers and Browns, they're going to be playing each other. The Browns, they got 3 nationally televised games, at least for now. They could get a couple flexed in later. Let's see, AJ's Indianapolis Colts, they got 4. Good job, AJ. And your Detroit Lions, though, they got that required 1. The Lions, the Jets, the Jaguars, the Bengals, the Texans, Panthers, Broncos, and the Falcons, they all only have 1 game each on national television.
Now, I agree with that. The Lions, all those teams, they don't deserve 1. But one thing on here I just can't wrap my head around is Dallas getting 5. Like, I get it. They're America's team.
Yeah, that's why.
You're throwing
branding.
You're throwing Buffalo down to 4 when you got Dallas at 5, and then, I mean, then Cleveland's only getting 3, but you got Chicago, Minnesota, and Las Vegas up at 4. Like, I'd rather see Cleveland play more.
You're speaking
than Minnesota.
Robbie.
Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, Minnesota's all right, but like they didn't go anywhere near as far as Cleveland last year. So that's just I wonder how they exactly. I guess it's by market size more than like which teams actually.
Yeah, Dallas has a massive fan base. The Raiders, this is their first season actually playing games in in Las Vegas with fans, and that is actually a big reason why they have the most expensive ticket prices this season. Out of, I think, the top 10 most expensive games, they like Raiders home games make up like 8 or 9 of them. The most expensive ticket, obviously, being Tampa Bay at New England with Tom Brady's return to Gillette. That's a must-see TV, like must-see TV for every single person who cares about the NFL. It's like $1,300 plus for the least expensive tickets for Bucks Patriots. That's going to be a wild, wild atmosphere. But the Raiders games, against the Ravens, the Chiefs, Eagles, Bears, Dolphins, like all of these games are top of the charts in terms of the most expensive tickets. Fans finally getting a chance to see the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, I mean I think that has a lot to do with like just like the demand for tickets is higher. I feel like if your team is playing Las Vegas, like that's the game you want to go see your team play an away game because it's Las Vegas. So I feel like they're getting away with like charging more for tickets because basically half their stadium's going to be opposing fans because I mean they just moved to Las Vegas. So how many Raiders fans are really in the,
well,
we haven't seen them play in their stadium yet, so
well, they have played in the stadium. They just there haven't been fans.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean. I think this is like a one-time only deal, unless they really kick it into gear and become one of the NFL's elite. Then watch those prices go up. Some really interesting games. They put Sam Darnold and the Panthers up against the Jets right away, right off the top week 1. Obviously, week 4 will be the Belichick versus Brady game. The revenge game for J.J. Watt and DeAndre Hopkins on the Cardinals when they go back to play the Texans in week 7. Cam Newton's going to play against the Panthers week 9. The Lions and the Rams going at each other in I believe week 7. Goff versus Stafford, that'll be an interesting matchup. Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow, they played each other in the national championship game once upon a time. They're going to be playing each other. So a lot of varying pieces there. I believe also the Jets and the Jaguars are going to play each other. So in theory, that's Trevor Lawrence up against Zach Wilson. So a lot of really interesting games in the NFL schedule. And, things though could change. The two big dominoes to fall, obviously being Aaron Rodgers on the Packers and Deshaun Watson on the Texans. What's going on with their situations? So I'm excited though. We're talking about football games they're going to happen, and hopefully there should be a lot more fans as we start to return to normal. So kind of we touched on Oakland a little bit, but the Oakland A's have just received approval from Major League Baseball to look for a new home. They were hoping to get a new project to build a new stadium, a new home for the A's in Oakland. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. So we're looking at Oakland losing yet another team. They lost the Raiders to Las Vegas. The Golden State Warriors, although they're not called the Oakland Warriors, but they played in Oakland. They played at Oracle Arena. They moved to a brand new arena in San Francisco, albeit it's not very far away, but still in a different place. It's a different major place. So I mean, this is not good. Like if you're an Oakland resident, you're a big Oakland sports fan. All these sports teams leaving your city, it's kind of like I can't help but like feel bad for those people who are just like Oakland through and through, and they're seeing all their teams leave.
Yeah, I know they weren't in Oakland, but I mean, even the San Francisco 49ers moved all the way down to Silicon Valley. So, I get that separate from Oakland, but like that little microcosm of California has just had so much movement that I think a lot of those fans are definitely upset. Especially with the Warriors. I feel like
that's because they were good.
Well, it's like just that switch though. That
great.
Like it's I don't know how to put it. It doesn't really make a difference unless you live in that area, I'm guessing. Because I feel like if you're from Oakland, you're probably like, I'm from Oakland. I'm not from San Francisco. And even though it's like a 20-minute drive to go see the Warriors now, you'd still be like, it was a 5-minute drive, like
the reason that Damian Lillard wears the number 0 is because he says I'm wearing the letter O because he's from Oakland. So yeah, people
It's
from
like
Oakland are very proud.
kind of a blue
Marshawn Lynch,
collar sort of
Marshawn
thing
Lynch as well.
versus San Francisco's like the uppity kind of side of town, as far as I have been informed by just movies and TV and news and stuff like that. You know, like I've driven through San Francisco once. I didn't go into Oakland, but I just remember being kind of told that Oakland's a little bit more working class.
Well, I hope they are able to somehow reverse this because they deserve to have a sports team. But it's interesting to see who could potentially be at Las Vegas, snatch another team. Could it be San Jose, another team or another city rather in California? Portland, San Antonio, those are other markets they could potentially move to. Anyone that you potentially would have an eye on?
I mean, I feel like San Jose makes the most sense because that's pretty. I think it's like 30 minutes south or north. I think it's 30 minutes south of San Francisco and Oakland, so they would kind of still have the same fan base.
The San
Portland,
Jose A's.
I just don't see Portland like having enough fans to, you know, to handle another sports team like baseball too.
Really?
Like, I don't know. Just think about like I don't know. I feel like baseball is I don't want to get political, but for some reason I feel like it's kind of if you're more conservative or like old school, you're probably going to like baseball. And Portland is so just like, dude, they legalized like cocaine. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't see them bringing a baseball team into Portland. I don't know why. Like, just the demographic doesn't seem like a bunch of people would be willing to go to a baseball game.
Oregon likes drugs, and therefore they hate baseball. That's the equation I got from you right there, Robbie.
I feel like, yeah, if you're tweaking out, you don't have the patience to sit there and watch a baseball game, man. Like, that is my entire logic on that.
That's
San
gonna be hard.
Antonio, it's like there's
argue
so many
that.
baseball teams in Texas. I don't know. San Jose makes sense. Las Vegas makes sense, but I hope they stay in Oakland.
I'm really glad I asked you your thoughts about potentially moving the team to Portland. I'm really glad I did that. Before we continue, I want to again thank the sponsor, Tell ABQ, for putting us on and for streaming our podcast, Know Your Balls, and other Tonique podcasts on the app, the Tell ABQ app. Download it today. Some overall general thoughts real quick, some rapid fire stuff real quick. Robbie, Forbes came out with the highest paid athletes on planet Earth. Conor McGregor being number one at 180 million. Messi is up there second. Ronaldo up there. You know, LeBron James, the highest paid basketball player, of course. He's fifth in the world, 96.5 million. Neymar is up there as well. Roger Federer, highest paid tennis player, making 90 million. Lewis Hamilton making 82 million at number 8. Tom Brady and Kevin Durant, they round out the top 10. So like there's a bunch of not really a bunch of surprises there, but like athletes are making more money than they've ever made before.
I don't know. I'm surprised Dak Prescott is number 4. That just blew me away.
Is that Dak Prescott?
It says Dak, right? I don't know another Dak.
Is that a soccer player?
Is there a soccer player with the last name Dak? Because I don't watch soccer. You got me there.
That's why I just kind of I saw the list. I was like,
it is Dak Prescott.
Oh my God.
That's what I'm saying.
That's why the Dallas Cowboys are on national television 5 times, because they have a guy who is making the 4th most amount of money in the world. Okay, so Dak Prescott's 4. Brady is not the highest paid NFL player. I saw that and I was just like, all right, I'm not going to make that mistake by saying it's Dak Prescott. But oh my God, yeah, whoa, he's making more money than LeBron. Like,
yeah.
Whoa.
When did they do this deal? Like, I'm losing track. I mean, he got injured last year, so he must have signed it before last year.
It was before the draft. No, it was before the draft this year.
And they signed him for that after what happened to his leg?
Yep.
I mean, I love him. I hope he comes back. I think he'll probably do good, but like also, you don't know until he gets on the field with that kind of injury. I mean,
Well, that's the only that's literally the only injury he's ever had.
true, but
So
it was bad.
it was bad, but
I mean, it was just hanging there. That was another one.
You
I
mentioned
saw
we talked about this last week. Juwan James, the offensive tackle for the Denver Broncos, he has been released, and he is now considering filing a grievance of $10 million against the Denver Broncos. They also had a situation with the wide receiver, Deshaun Hamilton, who they were going to release him. They tried to trade him, and then he got hurt. He tore his ACL, also training away from the Broncos facility. So now they have a couple of these kind of situations that are really at the center point of off-season voluntary workouts.
Yeah. I think it's kind of interesting that another player on the same team watched what happened to his teammate, knows the kind of trouble it caused him, and then still went out and continued to train in a non-Broncos facility. And then the same thing happens. He tears his ACL. I mean, I don't know if this is the exact same injury, but he injures himself, and now he's dealing with the same thing. And it's like, okay, you can argue about whether or not the rule is right or if it's fair or anything, but while it's going on, like, you would think these guys would be like, okay, until we change it, do I really want to risk my future, my entire career, just because I want to practice in another facility, regardless of whether or not that is how it should be? It's not how it is.
So you think? Do you think the rule should be changed?
That's the thing. It depends on what side you're on. Because if I'm the owners, I don't want.
What side are you on? I'm asking.
I'm not an owner or a player. I'm just watching what's going on. So I'm I'm hanging out in the middle, just kind of objectively looking at it. I'm a fan. I'm it's like if I see a fight going on, like when I watch a boxing match, I very rarely root for anybody. I appreciate both punches. I don't know enough, or if I'm not betting on it, yeah. I'm just enjoying the fact that two people are fighting, and it's interesting. There's not a lot going on every day, so something happens. It's fun to watch. But for a player, this is the analogy I would use as a player, is like the players essentially are dealing with like the federal government in like the league, and the league, or metaphorically the federal government, is like pot's illegal, right? And the players are like, well, I'm going to drive around in my car and smoke pot anyways, which is fine. I think a lot of people did that as teenagers. And, if you don't get pulled over, you might be a CEO of a company one day and no one will ever know. You'll graduate from college, you'll never go to jail, blah, blah, blah. But if you're driving around smoking a joint, and you get pulled over, well, now you're caught, and you can sit there and say, well, maybe I should be allowed to smoke joints, whatever. That's a fair argument to make. But right now, the rule is you can't drive around your car smoking a joint. So
I don't think that will ever be the rule. Like, I don't think that will ever be the rule that you can.
Well, maybe the driving part's kind of the bad part of that analogy.
Yeah, but that's never going to be legal.
But regardless, people still do it. And then if you get caught, then you're screwed. And you can't go to the judge and be like, I should be allowed to do it. It's like, well, the judge is going to look at you and say, well, you can't. Well, and that's where I'm at with the players. Like, all the rules in place, what are you going to do? Try not to.
You're comparing getting themselves ready to play in the NFL physically to blatantly driving under the influence.
All right, let's get rid of the driving part. Just smoking the weed. Just the smoking part. Right? Just the part that's illegal in some states.
I don't like that comparison. I don't agree with it. I wish Colin was here because he would go even harder. I see where you're coming from though. I just think if this is like the governing rule needs to change, and like I don't know what they expect. Like even with the requirements that would hypothetically be in place for players to come in and work out there, even with those requirements, players still have to work out outside the facility. You will not be able to last in the NFL if you do not actively continue to work out outside team facilities, even even outside of voluntary workouts. Like, it's not like voluntary workouts are like the whole off season. It's only like a part of it. So you're not like only working out then, regardless of the requirements or not requirements or voluntary statuses or whatever you want to call it of going into the facility. They still have to practice and they still need to prepare outside of that. So I think it's a little ridiculous to say you're losing all this money because you get hurt doing something that you have to do in order to keep this job. Like, it's not like, it never says in their contract you have to work out like during the off season. Like, they just have to do it. Otherwise they will not be in the NFL.
See, that's the part that just confuses me so much. Is like, all right, so like, you don't have to work out in the off season, right? So, but like, I just don't get why you can't go. But you do.
You don't have to legally. You
but
do.
Like, why? Like, that'd be like if I work at McDonald's and they're like, you don't need to come to work.
Comparing the NFL to McDonald's. You're comparing.
But like, you need to work. You don't need to work, and like, we're not gonna let you come in and work. Like, but you need to work, but you can't come to work. It's very confusing, you know. We've gone over this for 2 weeks now, and I still don't understand what's going on.
Okay,
like, why can't they just go into the facility? Like, why are they so adverse to going into the facility? I just don't understand.
So you're saying every single workout they ever do should be in the facilities then? Because they can't. That's not even like a possibility.
That's what I don't get. Why isn't it a possibility? Because like, they work out in the facilities during the season, right? Don't they work out there sometimes? Like, this is
not about during the season. It's about the off season when like they're trying to, like, the NFL and their teams are trying to get players to come into the building, and the NFL players are saying, hey, we know how to do this on our own. We have to work out on our own anyways. Like, even if we want to be in the facility as much as we possibly could, there's still so much time outside that we need to work out for anyways. So you shouldn't be penalizing players.
My thing is, if you're like lifting weights or running on a treadmill, why can't you just do that in the facility? That's my.
You can't be in the facility 365 days a year if you're an NFL player. There's only you're only allowed to have players in on certain dates and stuff like that.
Well, that's stupid.
So you think the rule should be changed?
Yeah. Like,
okay, there we go.
I'm not saying you should be able to. I think you should. I don't think you should change the rule and be like, oh, well, if you don't want to practice in the facility, you should be able to practice outside the facility. My thing is like, well, just if you want them to practice in the facility, then open up the facility 365 days a year. Like, I can't believe they ever closed their practice.
But first of all, COVID was a big part of that.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the outlier.
But second of all, like, players should be able to work out outside of the facilities and not have to worry about losing all their money if they get hurt.
Wait, so are we talking about opening up the facilities, or are we about opening up the facilities and opening up the offsite workouts? Is that what you're saying? Do both?
The NFL Players Association wants players to be able to work out on their own without having to be in the facilities of their teams and not worry about losing their contracts if they get injured. I'm
saying they should just work out in the facilities.
But you can't.
They should open them up. But it seems like that's the rule that needs to be changed. Not you can work offsite.
NFL players feel like they don't need to. And they proved that last year they don't need to.
I don't know. We got two guys training offsite on the same team who injured themselves. And then you wonder why the owners want people to train in their facilities. Like, maybe these guys they're hiring to train them.
Facilities.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. Something's going on there. How are you injuring yourself? Like, I've worked out quite a bit in my life, and I've never ripped anything while I was lifting weights. Like,
you are not an NFL player, Robbie. You are not.
I didn't have a personal trainer telling me how much to lift, and it's like, apparently this guy's telling these guys to lift too much or stretch too much, and he's stretching.
It could be a non-contact injury. Tearing your ACL isn't a lifting injury. Tearing your Achilles is it's like a moving and running injury. Sometimes you just roll an ankle and stuff like that. Look, I think we'll just go round and round in here, but I think Jerry Jones has been leaving a bunch of voicemails on AJ's phone seriously trying to get you in the building. Like you are speaking his language, my man. You're like, what? We should open him
I
up
don't know,
as
man.
much as we can.
Everybody else on the planet has to show up to work. I don't know why you could just this whole remote learning, remote work, remote everything. Just never leave our houses ever again. We'll just play. We'll just start playing Madden. Then nobody ever has to get injured. All the players could just sit there with controllers and protect their bodies and not ever leave their house and put themselves in danger. I don't know. It's just ridiculous.
All right, Robbie.
It's like go to work.
All right, Robbie. I think we're just gonna have to agree to disagree here. Would have loved to have Colin's thought on that as well, because we had a good and interesting discussion last week as well. NBA, Jaylen Brown had to have wrist surgery. He's out for the rest of the season. Celtics are sliding. It really hasn't been their year. They're going to be in the play-in tournament, but I don't think people are expecting them to really be in the title conversation this year. And this Brown injury really just seals their fate.
Yeah, they've been having a lot of problems this year. My favorite player, Robert Williams, is out too with some turf toe.
A fellow Robert Williams.
Robert Williams, yeah. I enjoy watching the Celtics. I keep hearing my name over and over again. But
that's amazing. I never even.
Unfortunately,
I can't believe I didn't put that together. Wow.
Yeah, I don't know many other people who have that exact.
Well, he's Robert Williams the third. He's Robert Williams the third. He's what number are you? I don't know what that makes you.
I'm number one.
Number
one.
Robert Williams, the first and the best. So yeah, Celtics, they've been hit hard with a lot of injuries and more than any other team, COVID. I think they have like by far the most amount of missed time on their roster due to COVID. So
yeah, I think
it really wasn't their year.
3 or 4 of their starters are out tonight. I mean, Marcus Smart's sitting. They're like resting him, but he's also got like a neck thing.
Yeah. So I mean, by the time this comes out, we will have known what the exact seeding is in all the playoff circumstances. But we know the Celtics will be the 7th seed, so they'll be in the Eastern Conference play-in. And speaking of which, we know our 10 teams in each conference that will be competing in the West and in the East. Again, these are going to change, and by the time this comes out, we'll know the actual matchups. But I cannot wait for the play-in tournament. It's just like it's a drastic change from like a 72-game season, although compressed and still a bit of a sprintish. It's all or nothing immediately, and I love that. And it's going to be almost like we're going to have a mini NBA March Madness. And I'm very excited about that. It's like it's like a weird, different twist on it. As a fan, the stakes with these great players, I think, is going to be must-see TV.
Yeah, there's something about the all or nothing situation that makes it because eventually you get that in a 7-game series. But the first 3-4 games, you're like, you're not going to have a winner that night. So you watch a game that's all or nothing. It's just the energy around it is just totally different.
You have any before the play-in tournament starts, before the playoffs start? Have any predictions of who's going to the finals in each conference?
Who's going to the finals?
Yeah.
Okay. The 2 ending teams. Well.
Yeah.
That is. I mean, it's just so. There's no teams that are like just a total cut above the rest this year. There's no like Golden State Warriors like you had in the past where they're just completely blowing everybody out of the water night after night. Like, but if I had to say the top 2 teams to get there, I'm gonna have to say Brooklyn from the East. I think that's gonna be tight between. I think New York's gonna make a good run, but I think you're gonna see a New York, Eastern Conference final, and then Brooklyn's gonna win. I'm predicting that.
Well,
I don't know if it's going to work out. I have to see the.
Yeah, we don't know the
bracket.
Yeah, I don't think that. Yeah, Philadelphia has already clinched the number 1 seed, so Brooklyn has to stick at 2. So they can only play in the conference semifinals. We know that already. But yeah, I like your Brooklyn pick. I think they're a tough team. Philadelphia is right there though, so I'm hoping to see those two in the conference finals. Milwaukee is still definitely gonna be a presence as long as Giannis is around, as long as they're healthy. People are sleeping on the Bucks a little bit, but I do. If I had to put my money on a team, it would definitely be Brooklyn. In the West, I don't know about you, but I I think this is gonna be one of the toughest playoffs to predict for the Western Conference, and I think a lot of people are still going Lakers. Although and look, I'm having a really tough time to not pick them because it's like why would you bet against LeBron James? Like that doesn't seem like a good idea. They're going to be a team that no matter what seed they are, they're going to be right there with them. But the best team that I think I've seen this year is the Utah Jazz, and I'm gonna give them some love here. I'm gonna say Jazz Nets in the finals.
You're saying Jazz Nets in the finals. I don't know. I really like Chris Paul and Devin Booker.
That's a good pick too.
That I just plus I don't know. I'm rooting for Chris Paul. Like Chris Paul's just those State Farm commercials. Those are great. They're breaking the fourth wall on him now because they've done so many of them. They're like, we don't have any ideas. Yeah. We're just gonna talk about how he's in so many State Farm commercials now.
Yeah, I think it's worked out for him. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like Chris Paul. I'd like to see him get somewhere. Devin Booker's fun to watch. So I'm trying to think about what. I'm pretty sure. Golden State kind of whooped up on Utah the other night, if I'm not mistaken. I might be remembering.
Yeah, but they did beat Utah the other day, but Donovan Mitchell wasn't playing. Both teams, I think, had a couple of injuries, so I don't really take much stock in that. These late regular season games, I'm not putting as much stock in as a normal playoff game or whatever. But we will see. And we don't know who Utah is going to be playing in the first round, even before the play-in tournament. I think that will be a very interesting dynamic. These top two seeds in each conference don't know who they're going to be playing. Maybe that could lead to an early stolen game from the 7th or 8th seed in each conference. Maybe a possible domino effect from the play-in tournament. So that is yet to be determined. Also yet to be determined is who will win MVP this year. And to me, it's pretty clear who the MVP should be. I thought at the beginning of the season, it was LeBron James's award to lose. The injury obviously changed things. And injuries all around, I think, have helped this guy who I think will win MVP. The big honey, the Joker, Nikola Jokic, who is the betting favorite right now to win MVP. I think he should win the award this year. He is the reason Denver is where they are. He is the reason Denver is going to be a top seed in the Western Conference. They went down. Jamal Murray went down with a season-ending injury, and they kept the ship afloat. They've obviously had a couple of other big pieces like Michael Porter Jr. and they traded for Aaron Gordon. Those players have definitely been big for them. But Nikola Jokic having one of the most efficient seasons ever, leading the NBA in PER. He's the top 10 scorer. He's a top 10 rebounder, and he's top 10 in assists. I think this is pretty cut and dry.
There's my beef with big guys who perform very well like this. Is you just have this edge over everybody. Imagine if you took Steph Curry's skills and put it in Nikola Jokic's body. You know what I'm saying? So it's there's a level of your height. Same thing with Giannis Antetokounmpo. There's a level where your height and your size is almost more responsible for a lot of your success than your skill level. So yes, he's got all the stats. He's got the player efficiency rating and all this stuff. And, he's responsible for Denver being where they are. But you could say the same thing about Steph Curry. They're not in the play-in tournament without Steph Curry doing what Steph Curry does, or Damian Lillard. You know, he's got CJ McCollum, and they got Norman Powell in the trade by the trade deadline over there. But you know, that team is Damian Lillard. You know, and then I mean, if you go even further, I think Russell Westbrook is probably the most underrated, overrated guy in the league. I mean, the guy's averaging a triple double for years. Like for years. I mean, he's not in the conversation at all. Like Nikola Jokic isn't averaging a triple double. He's close.
Close to it. He's close to it. He's not far off.
He's 9 assists a game, I think, and like 11 rebounds and close to 30 points or something. But I think like I get that he's got the efficiency rating. If you look at Russell Westbrook, he's on like I just looked at it earlier. He doesn't. It's these efficiency ratings aren't as good on him, but it's like you play on a worse team too, And Russell Westbrook was fighting through an injury and having to deal with Bradley Beal's injury for the first half of the season, So I think, he's not going to win it. He's not really in the conversation. But in my heart, my most valuable player is Russell Westbrook, just because he's my favorite dude to watch. And then right in the mix there would be Damian Lillard and Stephen Curry. I think you got to give the little guys who do all the work a lot of credit. They don't have that extra foot of height helping them just yam on people.
So I see what you're saying. I can't really, I'm not going to put down any of those guys, Westbrook, Lillard, or Curry. They've all had phenomenal seasons. I do think Westbrook gets way too much hate. He's definitely not a great, efficient player. He definitely turns the ball over a lot as well. Very high usage guy, and if he's off, he's way off. But while I say that, I think you're kind of missing a lot of what makes Nikola Jokic such a different type of big man. Because yes, he is a big dude. He's 6'11", 284. He's actually lost a lot of weight, so he's actually heavier. He's lost a lot of weight, but I don't care what kind of position you play. Nikola Jokic is one of the most skilled players in the NBA. Steph Curry is in the NBA because of his skills, right? Not necessarily because of his size. I'd argue the same thing with Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic is not in the NBA because of his size. Nikola Jokic is in the NBA because of his assists. He is the primary ball handler on the Denver Nuggets. He is averaging 8.4 assists a game. He's averaging 26.4 points and 10.9 rebounds. His PER is 31.55, which is one of the highest ever. He doesn't turn the ball over much. He has an incredible assist to turnover ratio. He turns the ball over, I believe, 3.1 times per game, which for the amount of time that he has the ball in his hands is unbelievable. Nikola Jokic, yes, he can use his size, close to the rim. He can fade back a bit, but I don't think that should be held against him. I mean, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Shaq, Hakeem Olajuwon, Bill Russell, Tim Duncan, all these great bigs, they also aren't just great because they were huge and could just back you down and score. They also had skill. They also had a lot of abilities around them.
Didn't just back people down? Come on.
Obviously, he did.
Wasn't out here crossing people over and draining shots. The guy can't shoot and can't dribble.
But there's more than that. There's basketball IQ. There's defensive rotations. He's a great shot blocker. He was better at steal. Nikola Jokic is not the best defender. He's just because he's big doesn't mean he's necessarily a great defender. He is leading his team, and I think part of the reason why those guys you mentioned, Westbrook, Lillard, and Curry, part of the reason they're not really in the discussion is because their teams aren't as good. They aren't bad teams, and they're all going to be in the playoffs or play-in tournament. But Nikola Jokic is on one of the best teams in the league. He took the team to the Western Conference Finals last year. This is an organization on the rise. He is playing at a level that has made his team better. It's not just an individual play. Steph Curry has been terrific, but they're 500 basketball, a little bit higher.
Yeah, but he's playing
without a title contender in Denver. But yeah, I'm saying, but this is this is a guy in Nikola Jokic whose play has led to wins and who has led to a top 3 seeding in the Western Conference. Like that, to me, like if Joel Embiid had been healthy more, I think it would have gone to him because he's leading the Sixers to the top seed in the East. And he's had a great season anyways. But Nikola Jokic, he's leading his team in points, rebounds, assists, steals. He's a 90% or close to it free throw shooter, or 86%, something like that. He is a guy that he's not just carrying a team, he's carrying one of the best teams in the league. And I think that's a big difference maker to me.
It's a lot easier to carry a team that, basically weighs less than some other teams. Like you're carrying an easier thing to carry. Steph Curry's out here carrying a washer and dryer in each hand, and Nikola Jokic is carrying a carton of eggs.
Well,
and he's like,
okay, how about this? Nikola Jokic has also played in every game this season. How about that? Like being there, dependability. He hasn't missed a single game.
I'll give him that. He doesn't take any rests. He's not one of these guys who wants every other game off.
He's averaging almost 35 minutes a game and has played in every game this season. And they needed him. Like when Jamal Murray went down, things just like they didn't miss him.
That's a stat I can't ignore. That's a stat that'll perk.
He hasn't missed a single game.
I'll give you that.
So I mean, to me, he should be the MVP. All these other guys, Embiid, Curry, Lillard, Chris Paul too, Giannis, Doncic, they've all had great years, but I think the guy who has played the best and who has led his team to the most amount of success, that's the guy who should win MVP, because that's what the award has been.
It's more of like a popularity contest than an individual performance.
Well, that's what the MVP has been. That's what the MVP has been. Also, like who else is playing well besides LeBron award? I'm saying based on like what the MVP is and has been in recent years, that's what Nikola Jokic should win the award. Yeah. I think he will.
I think it should be. I think the MVP should be more of a personal performance thing than whether or not you're just on you shouldn't have to be on a great team to be the MVP. You should be able to be on the bottom of the barrel team. But if you're performing amazing, I don't think you can ignore that just because you're on a bad team.
It could be seen as empty calories, though. I mean, you could put up numbers, but if your team's not winning, how can you really be that valuable? I guess that's the argument.
It's not that you're not valuable; it's that your team's not valuable.
Right, but if you can't lift that team, there's a whole superstar dynamic that is like a part of it. I think Nikola Jokic really has carried this team to where it is, not taking a single game off, still leading his team in most major statistical categories, having one of the most efficient seasons ever. I think that's the big honey, the Joker, all those fun nicknames that he has. I think he should win the award. So that'll do it. Know your balls. You took the week off with the god awful jokes. I'm hoping we got a 2-week streak going on.
I give up on them. I can't. I thought of like 2 bad jokes.
Avi wins.
And I can't think of more bad jokes.
Avi wins. I'll take that to the bank every day. Know Your Balls podcast. Make sure you check out. Oh God.
Never mind. No, it's too far back. I'm reaching too far back for this. I'll do it anyway, since we already stopped. Earlier, we were talking about the Dallas Cowboys and like why they're so popular and how they're America's team. Fun fact about how they became America's team. They lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers, I believe, very early in the league. I think in the Super Bowl. And the league asked the Steelers if they wanted to be part of the marketing campaign. Oh, America's team. You guys are the one that won. And the Steelers said, we're Pittsburgh's team. We aren't America's team. Screw off. And so the Cowboys are America's team because they lost. That's why they're America's team. And they didn't care about the city of Dallas. And they were like, we just want a bunch of money. So the Cowboys are America's team because they're sellouts. Final thought.
Thank you for educating the viewers. Check out Tonique at Tonique.news. Make sure you follow us on all the socials. You know the drill. This has been Know Your Balls. Carr-Gloth, Robbie Williams. you next time.
See you.